Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video. Yes, it's time for the autopsy of Formula One. Or as Jeremy Clarkson said, what on earth have they been doing over the winter? Well, I can actually explain that because unfortunately the regulations are locked off until 2026. The engine regulations especially, which means that no alterations can be made to any of the engines on the grid. So no one can come out one year with an engine that's got 50 or 100 more brake horsepower than the one before. That's just not going to happen. So in terms of engines, there is very little that any of the teams can do to improve performance. So all they can do is what they're doing right now is coming out with, aerodynamic tweaks to try and get some kind of performance out of the cars. But that's basically it. Aero, chassis, suspension, that's all they can do to these cars to try and make them faster. Now, the other thing is, of course, Ross Brawn, who actually had a hand in designing these new generation of cars, said that it was going to introduce lots more overtaking and some really exciting races. Well, I'm sorry, Ross, but that just hasn't happened, does it? That just really hasn't. Ever since these new regulation cars have come out, I think Formula One the racing just got worse. It hasn't got any better. It really hasn't. It's just got worse. I prefer now the 2021 cars. I really do, because I just don't see any of this close, exciting racing that Ross was on about. This was the whole idea for the ground effect cars, was to make the racing more exciting. But it's had the opposite. It's made it more boring. Now, of course, we are in a domination era. And that is, of course, Max Verstappen. Nothing against Max whatsoever. He is doing what he's doing. What can he? He can't slow down and let him catch up, can he? Because, that would be ridiculous. So nothing against Max. But, of course, in a dominating era, it's very, very boring to watch. When, of course, the first car clears off in the distance, it's just a race between second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. And that makes it a very, very boring F1 season. And unfortunately, F1 seems to be in a complete crisis at the moment. Everything is going on. We've got Hornergate, which is still rumbling and rumbling and rumbling. New allegations coming out. We've got Jos Verstappen now throwing his hat into the ring, claiming Horner needs to go because otherwise the Red Bull team's going to get absolutely imploded from within. I think Jos Verstappen should shut his mouth, to be honest. Yes, considering his previous history of assault charges, I think that he should just step aside and let his son do the talking on the track. I mean, let's face it, Jos Verstappen was an absolutely terrible driver in his own career. He at one point had the best car on the grid in the Benetton, and he had absolutely no clue how to handle this car, and he ended up being the joke of Formula One. And he left under a cloud. So he's really got, no sort of balls to start coming out and accusing Horner. And basically, from what I'm understanding about this Hornergate, Christian Horner's never actually had any physical contact with this woman. He was just basically mucking around on WhatsApp. Okay, now Jerry Horner has been to Bahrain, and I understand behind the scenes she did read him the Riot Act, which is understandable. But if this is all it was a load of text on WhatsApp, I don't get what all the fuss is about. I really don't. If there was no physical contact, it was, back in my day, it was just banter. It's just banter, mate, isn't it? That's all it is. And I'm sorry, this is ridiculous now, ridiculous. And Formula One just seems to be imploding. I've just heard today that the president is under investigation for maybe fixing one of the races last year in which Fernando Alonso got a good result. Yes, Teflonzo's back, causing controversy at a street circuit once again. I can't believe it, but it's true. Yes, it's true. Unbelievable. And the whole of Formula One is just imploding in on itself. It really is. It's just an absolute shit show right now. It really is. So what is the problem with Formula One? Well, the problem is simple. It's just got too big now. It's just ridiculous. It needs a reset. It needs a stock market crash To be honest, it needs to go back to basics. We need to basically almost start it over again, because that's the only way we're going to fix the problems in Formula One. Liberty Media, when they took over, they took over a product that was in reasonably good health anyway, and they're proceeding a little bit like Electronic Arts with the F1 games to absolutely break it into submission until there's absolutely nothing left. Yeah, so with the audiences down 30% for the first race in Bahrain, don't forget, of course, taking into account all the pre-race hype of a new race in the season, and everyone's going, oh, let's watch the race. It was still 30% down on numbers. So that sort of gives you an indication of how well Formula One is going right now. It's just an absolute shit show. It really is an absolute shit show. And as I've said, the cars aren't doing it for me. I don't know whether they need to go back to the old design of cars. I don't know, but it's definitely it's not making exciting racing. We just want to see cars racing it, and that's it. Formula One is no longer about racing anymore. There is no racing in Formula One. It's just a complete procession. One car behind another. Occasionally you'll get some overtakes. Occasionally you'll get some, but that's it. Now, the other unfortunate thing is the way that the FIA, the whole sport in general, is being run. These are the days when I miss Bernie Ecclestone, because Bernie by now would have come up to a solution of the Max problem. Yes, he would have done, because he, as well as, being a businessman, he knew about people watching Formula One. He knew about the viewers out there, and he knew that if things were getting bad, then change had to happen. And several times throughout his tenure as the boss of Formula One did he change regulations to make it not as easy for a dominant driver to do as well. But there's just no one at the FIA right now that could do that, because they're all spineless, absolutely spineless. They're more concerned about upsetting people and everything else than they are about doing the job, and that is making a good Formula One race that we all like to watch and we can talk about in years to come. Let's look at some of these classic seasons. I mean, is the 2023 season ever going to be regarded in 20 years' time as a classic that everyone's going to go back and watch over and over again? No, absolutely not. And it looks like this season isn't going to be either. It really isn't. And yet you can go back to, let's just give you a quick example, 1998. Go back and watch that season. Absolute excitement from start to finish, domination by the Mercedes, but then Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari did a really good job every time they sort of made a few mistakes to pick up the slack, and it ended up as a pretty decent season in 1998. And that's a season, you could watch, 2 or 3 times in your lifetime and still be happy to watch it. But as I say, nobody in 20 years' time is going to want to watch the 2023 season for about 2 or 3 times on the trot. No, because it's just boring. And the domination is just too much, and something needs to be done about it. But there's just no one. There is no one at the FIA now to sort out these problems. And unfortunately, if this continues, F1 is going to be in the bin. It's going to be in the bin. Now, I hear from some of my American friends that NASCAR has been basically going down the same route for the past few years, and it's almost completely a shell of its former self as well. So things are not looking good for sport in general. Let's have a look at other sports, especially motorsports. Let's have a look at the World Rally Championship, who has just announced that they are completely abandoning the hybrid cars because they just feel that it's not working. I actually started watching rallying again, I think last year, because I was determined to get back into it. And I just looked at these hybrid cars and I thought, I just don't like it. I just don't like it. And, obviously nothing of what I've said, but they've decided, yes, the hybrid car is going, and they're going to use it. I think it's an adapted version of the F2 car for rallying in the future, which, I can understand, because I just didn't like the hybrid at all. And then, of course, if we go just purely for the UK for a moment, we've got the British Touring Car Championship, which also seems to be in complete chaos. Teams leaving all over the show. Teams leaving, coming back again because they've actually found some money from somewhere. And works teams are pretty much non-existent. I mean, if it carries on like it's a few more years' time, it'll have to call itself the Independent Token Tour because there won't be any works teams in it. And it's just chaos everywhere in motorsport in general. And I just feel the problems with Formula One is that it's just got too big. It needs a major reset now. It really does, because, you know, the racing, as I've said many times before, the racing now is taking a back seat. The controversy, what's going on with people's lives is taking over what is the fundamental fact of what you watch a Formula One race for, and that is the racing. Yes, but everything else is just taken over. And of course, we've had the explosion of social media, which has now come into Formula One, and it's exploded over the last 5 or 10 years, and that unfortunately hasn't helped the problem, because we've got people now coming into Formula One who basically have no idea about anything to do with Formula One whatsoever. They're ex-TikTokers, and they think, oh, well, yeah, I've had a few hits on TikTok, which basically isn't too difficult to do. And, they don't think they're some kind of authority on F1 and try and get into all these sort of presenting jobs. And it's just ridiculous. It really is. It's just ridiculous that these things happen. And Formula One is just, it's ready to implode in itself. If they don't sort out the problem soon, they're going to have a serious problem. Now, of course, one of the other things they just don't seem to appreciate is you can't just keep ladling more races into the mix in the hope that it's going to, increase your audience and get people more excited. Nobody wants 24 races in a Formula One season. Nobody. It should be capped off at 18 races maximum. Apart from anything else, it would ease the pain a little bit with Maxi Boy, because he wouldn't score, as many points. And you could spread the races out a little bit more, so it would sort of deaden the pain of us watching, every week for Max to actually, be winning. So it should be capped at 18 races. We don't need 24. There's no need. There really is no need. Go back to the old days. One race every fortnight. It was something to look forward to. Even if we're in a dominating era, which we're in now, it would still be something to look forward to. Them keep absolutely hammering us with one races every week. Sometimes during the summer, that's what you get in it, like 4 races, one after the other, hammering us in and think, oh, come on, you'll watch it. No, we won't. Make the bloody racing more exciting, then we'll watch it. Unbelievable. Anyway, so there you go. That's the current state of Formula One. And if things continue, I think it's definitely going to implode. My personal view, just to finish off this footnote on Christian Horner, is I believe that nothing should happen to him, because, as I say, from what I understand, he's not even had any physical contact with this woman, so nothing should actually happen. He should stay in his position at Red Bull and get on with the job. Get on with the job, Christian. That's what I say. Get on with the job. Because I don't see any guilt. Yeah, of course he's guilty. He's guilty of mucking around on WhatsApp with a young girl. Yeah, I understand that. But apart from anything else, it is not cause for him to get the sack. I mean, this basically is a private matter between him and Jerry. I mean, I understand that he did lie to her, because he did say to Jerry that he was having a problem with a female at work, but he said that was because she was asking for more responsibility, and Jerry actually accepted that from Horner. Well, obviously that wasn't all that was going on, and of course this is probably why Jerry is very upset, because she lied to him, which is understandable, but then again she has to understand he is a man, and that is what we do. I'm sorry, I'm going against my own species, but it is the truth. It is what we do. So she shouldn't be too surprised about that. It was just bending the truth a little bit, wasn't it? Bending the truth, yes. But as I say, if his penis didn't come into any contact with her moo-moo, I don't see what the problem is. I really don't. It's just... I'm sorry. I just realised what I said then. I just don't see what the problem is, you know. Really, really. Anyway, I must finish with the race at Bahrain. Yes, fantastic. Yes, we had Yuki Tsunoda Gate. I'd just like to say I am on side with Yuki. Yes, Yuki. Well done, my son. Well done. I've heard a lot of the big, organisations calling out Yuki and saying he's very immature and stuff like that. I just like to say I think that's a complete lot of old bollocks myself. He wasn't being immature. What Yuki was doing was standing up for himself, which I think is very good indeed. Because basically he was getting bullied out of his position by Daniel Ricciardo just because he's got a higher standing in the team. God knows why. I mean, this bloke has never been a rated driver, in my opinion. He was, for a little while, in the best car on the grid. Yes, and he did rather well in that car. But I reiterate, it was the best car on the grid. Then he went to other teams and he didn't do so well, did he? And let's not forget one fundamental point here. He was sacked by McLaren for underperforming. Sacked for underperforming. Everyone seems to forget that, but that's what happened to Daniel Ricciardo. And now he comes into V-Carb. Obviously, he's been there before, but he had to take a little time out, but he's back again. He comes into V-Carb, and he's basically the driver with the highest standard, even though Yuki has been in there, you know, plugging away at this team for years now. And no, he's now the driver of higher standing. And the passive aggressiveness that came over in his radio call from Daniel Ricciardo when he said, "Oh, I'm not going to say anything." I mean, that is classic passive aggressiveness there. You're not saying anything, but you really are saying something, aren't you, Daniel? Because, you know, that's what's coming across when you're saying that on the radio. And then I do believe Daniel Ricciardo called Yuki a helmet at the end. Of course, Yuki did that sort of dive bomb past him, you know, at the end of the race. Good on you, Yuki. Basically, I'd have smacked straight into the back of him if it was myself. You know, Cole Trickle style. That's what I would have done. Yeah. Change my tyres. Change my tyres. That's what I would have done. Because it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yuki Tsunoda was being bullied out of that position. Yes, I know Daniel Ricciardo was on the soft tyre, Yuki was on the hard tyre. But if we've all played the F1 games, those soft tyres don't have much of an advantage, only for about 2 or 3 laps, and then they're pretty much dead. And he didn't actually overtake Kevin Magnussen anyway, did he? Or was it Hulkenberg? I don't know, I fell asleep with that bit. Whoever it was, the Huss driver, he didn't overtake him, and he didn't give the place back, which is in the arrangements anyway. So, yaboo to you, Daniel Ricciardo. That's what I say. Yes, the honey badger needs to fuck off back into the forest where he belongs. Because unbelievable. I was incandescent with rage at that point. Yuki Tsunoda, don't forget, this was the lad who last year during the floods, during one of the races when they couldn't attend, he was out there with his broom helping people, you know, clear the water. That's the Yuki Tsunoda. And now, because he stands up for himself, he gets accused of being an immature arsehole. No, the only person being immature there was someone who puffed out his chest and decided, yeah, well, I'm the better driver, so I'm going to take the position, Yuki lad. No, that's not how it works. If he was faster, why didn't he do what they do in the old days? Do you remember that? When, you know, he actually goes past them. If he's faster, then overtake Yuki. Don't get your team to suddenly start going, Yuki, you must let... No. Just overtake him. It's simple, Daniel. That's all you have to do. Just overtake him if you're faster. But no, he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to risk it, because he knew Yuki would probably hold him up. And so he got the team to actually send a radio message and say, no, swap it over. By the way, their new team principal, he looks like Eric Clapton in the 70s. I don't know what his name is, but it just tickled me when I saw him up on the screen. I thought, hello, Eric Clapton's back. Fantastic. Anyway, so there you go. The race was an absolute bore fest. I'd give it 2 out of 10. And it's going to continue. It's going to continue. Everyone will be falling asleep by about round 4. Yes. Once I get past China, I think I may actually call it a day. Yes, I might call it a day. Thank God for the highlights. But I have to say, I think the highlights are too long now. I'm hoping that Channel 4 can actually do a highlights of the highlights, because I would like that. Or maybe we should condense it into a short. Yeah, 1 minute long. That's all we need. Just need a minute. And lights out and away we go. And Max has won it. Podium celebration. That's it. You can do all that in a minute. Yeah, you don't need 2 hours and 15 minutes, Channel 4. Just do it in a minute. Yeah, fantastic. Job done. Anyway, I'm a sarcastic bastard and I'm never going to change. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. You let me know in the comments what you thought of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Just tell me if you thought it was fantastic or not. And do you think I'm right? Do you think Formula One needs the big reset? The big reset. Do you think it needs to go back to how it used to be? I definitely think that change has to come, and a fundamental change has to come very, very quickly. Otherwise, the sport is just going to be in the bin. And unfortunately, then a lot of the engine manufacturers, I mean, it's all already looking dodgy for Ford. A lot of the engine manufacturers and actual, people wanting to go into Formula One, that is going to decline. And then the whole of Formula One itself will decline. And in 10 years' time, we could end up with the championship folding, which would be very, very sad indeed. Not just for me, although in 10 years' time, I'm quite sure that possibly I won't be a Formula One fan anymore, which would be very sad. But I'm thinking of the next generation, the new people coming through who are excited, for motorsport, and especially Formula One and rallying and touring car, every sort of sport like that. It's going to be very sad indeed. And generally, I think for sport, we are going through some very troubling times in general. Very troubling times. Just too much money in the sport. Netflix, once again, I've got to say, is helping to destroy Formula One with their Drive to Survive. I've never watched a single second of it, even though I'm a die-hard Formula One fan. Because, I don't see the point. I really don't see the point. No, if you want to see pure fantasy, just watch all my videos. Anyway, that's it from me. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. You have been awesome as always. I'm going for a lie down now until the next race, which is just in 6 days' time. Yes, in Saudi Arabia. Fantastic. I can't wait. Well, actually I can. But anyway, thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll catch you in the next video.